them, the ones I did do with you, as I have the chart in front of me as well. Again, as I do the letters, watch how I talk about them. The first letter is called the Aleph letter. Make sure you're able to see the printed Aleph and the cursive Aleph. I will write with cursive Aleph. And where does that word cursive come from, Jeremiah? I don't know. But in light of Garber's hypotheses in this classroom, words influence how you think, and how you think is how you respond. That word cursive is a perfect word to describe Zev Garber's writing Hebrew. My writing is atrocious. My writing is incomprehensible. It's a curse, whatever Garber writes. That's probably why the first writers were known as cursive writers. On a more serious level, I am serious. As a graduate school student, I studied Near Eastern languages at UCLA. I studied a language called Ugaritic, said to be the Canaanite language of all. We studied Ugaritic in transliteration, not in Ugaritic phonemes. I also remember studying the Dead Sea material. I had a whole year of it. I have manuscripts with Dead Sea writing in it. And Dead Sea writing did not separate words from words from words from words. They had no periods, no question marks, no capitals, no colons, and words follow one right after another, and it's up to the reader to make a separation if he's able to make a separation. You try to read anything in English without separating the words, you're going to have a confusion. It's going to be a bilbo, to use the Hebrew phrase. And then maybe that's the reason why this cursive business comes in. The writing is literally one letter on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other, on top of the other. And what happens when you have to erase a letter? Do you realize what problems come in when you're doing a manuscript and a letter is in error? You make a final mem when it should be a regular mem. What, are you going to start changing that mem? What's going to do with the letters that follow? They didn't have ink the way you have ink, or pens the way you have pens today. That is why in Jewish halachic legal tradition, when a sofer, a scribe, does his writing of the Torah, he's supposed to say every word, every letter out loud. He's supposed to count the letters as well, so that an error, God forbid, should not come in. So Jeremiah is asking, what if there is an error? What if the name of Elohim, God, or the name Hashem, Lord, is an error? What the sofer does is he puts down his pen, he goes to a mikvah, a ritual bath, he ritually cleans himself, goes back, and puts the letter in. But what happens if a paragraph has 4 or 5 divine names in it? How many times is he going to go to the mikvah? So what they do is they wait at the end of the day, and they wait till the next morning, whatever, then they go back after going to the mikvah to correct whatever errors are found. These are traditions which therefore explain if you find a Torah scroll in the Vatican, which they have, by the way, and you find one in, I don't know, Yad Vashem in Jerusalem, which I presume they have there in honor of the 6 million, and compare the 2 Torah scrolls, they will be identical as far as words go, space goes, and end of columns, etc. That's how accurate a Torah scribe is. Wherever he's found, they follow a similar, very strong tradition. One last point, how long does it take to write a Torah scroll? A good writer will probably take up to a year. Don't believe this business. They do it in 1 month or 1 day. They do it very slowly, very carefully. They have other jobs to do as well. They do them as a result on your doorposts. They do the tefillin that you wear in your hand. They do the Torah scroll. And somebody who does that, by the way, let's get down to the name. We as yet cannot read Hebrew, but that's the word for a scribe, a sofer. A sofer has the same 3 letters, which has the word book in it, sefer. It has the same 3 letters as the word to count. They are all related with this particular shoresh root, SPR. If you want me to write it in English, that's what that's going to look like. Anyway, the sofer who's able to do these 3 acts, which have to be done handwritten, that sofer is called a sofer stam. A sofer stam. Baruch is blowing the shofar. Baruch one day, Im Yirtzeh Hashem, and a halakhic committee will be a Rav one day in Israel.
Amen.
Okay, but one day, wait a minute, before you even get started with that Baruch, maybe we'll get you to be a scribe as well. If you are a sofer stam, this is the word, sofer stam. It's written this way. Some people will like to write it with a final mem like this, but given I am not writing a word, I'm writing an acronym, an abbreviation of 3 words, and so the tradition of a final mem should be written this way and not this way is not obligatory. A sofer stam is a scribe who's able to do the following. The letter, let me get it in my head here. You have the letter mem, which stands for the word mezuzah. He's able to write the scroll of a mezuzah. That's the mem letter, mezuzah. My mind is playing a game on me. The letter, the sefer should be actually, I'm trying to work it through here. The Sefer Torah should be the Samech. Yeah, I'm right. The Samech letter is the Sefer Torah. The so-called Samech letter is one who's able to do the writing of the 5 books of Moses, called the Book of the Torah, the manuscript of the Torah, Sefer Torah. Then you have the Tav letter, this letter here, this stands for Tefillin. The word Tefillin, Tefillin. So if you take the first letters of Sefer, then have the Tefillin second word, and the Mem the third word, you have the word Sefer Stam. Stam also happens to be a colloquial phrase in Hebrew, Stam. It means Stam, it just is, Stam. So the word in Hebrew, colloquialism, Stam, it's a Stam, it just is the same 3 letters indicating the 3 words that represent handwritten manuscripts, which need to be handwritten. They cannot be printed. And by the way, some of this is a problem. All of you have zot on your doorposts. You should be checking it. They require a yearly check. Eliezer wants to know why. I said, Encino I live, or knows what do you have to check it for? Because the ink that's there may well run or may well be decomposed, and so it's not kosher. That's why the Chabad rabbi that comes visiting every time to give me something, he just I'm serious. Why are you kissing? How do you know it's a kosher mezuzah there? And I'm not saying it in jest. I'm saying it to, if you're going to be observant, be very careful. I check my mezuzot at least twice a year. And then the word tefillin. The word tefillin is a very good example where my Israelis are dumb about. Tefillin is not Hebrew. Tefillin is not Hebrew. A third time, tefillin is not Hebrew. If this word was Hebrew, it should be tefillim with a mem at the end, not a final nun. Tefillin happens to be Aramaic. And now he's asking, why is Aramaic for tefillin, the phylacteries, and why mezuzah and Sefer Torah Hebrew? Because the phylactery business and the casing that goes into it comes from the period of Aramaic-speaking Jews, otherwise known as Talmudic period, or second period Judaism, as it's called academically. Get my point? There's a hell of a lot of Hebrew, that's so-called traditional Hebrew, which is not Hebrew at all, it's Aramaic. If you go to an Orthodox synagogue, you have a prayer called the Yukum Purkan. I can hardly say it. Yukum Purkan. It's Aramaic. It's not at all Hebrew. And the famous Kaddish, Yitkadav Yitkadash Merabah, is strictly Aramaic. And Jeremiah, you have an assignment. Check the burial of Charlie Kirk. See if they said the Kaddish at his burial. If they did, I would not at all be shocked. So my fellow Jews here, Christians are into your prayers, whether you know it or not, or like it or not. For a Christian to do Jewish prayers is not a rejection. For Jews who do Christian prayers, then we're talking about Messianic Jews, I guess. Your professor knows both communities, respects both communities, and articulate what I think is what's going on with both of these communities. All right, people, back to our Hebrew again. All right, the first letter again, say the Aleph, and then the Aleph you basically identify with what it's like. I'm not going to go over the transliteration, but remember the Aleph looks like that, the Ayin looks like that. We get used to the familiarity, or have a chart in front of you just to be familiar with it. The Aleph letter is a laryngeal letter. Make sure you know where the sounds are produced. The next letter is known as the bet, also known as the vet letter. So we put the bet there and we put the vet there. The difference between the two, one has a dot in it called a dagesh kal, a light dot, and one is lacking that dot. If this particular form has the dot, it's a B sound. A B sound is bilabial. If it lacks the dot, it's a V sound. The V sound is labiodental. Please get familiar with that terminology because you'll be reading articles later in your education that will use terms like that. You might see it in some of your readings right now. And it's just important for you to have a feel academically of this language class, Hebrew.
So the bed with the dot is bilabial?
It's bilabial. It's a B sound. It's a B sound. The
Right.
vet, the one is called the bet. She has a transliteration there, and the other one's called the vet. The vet, the VET, is a labial dental. It's a V sound. And then she gives you the gimel letter and the daled letter, but I will give you also the gimel and the daled, one with a dot in it and one without the dot. This is not shown by Edna Coffin because Israeli Hebrew no longer distinguishes the gimel with the plosive dot, as it's called, and without it. That's why she leaves it off her chart. However, in grammatical Hebrew, which is how we teach this class, you're going to know when to put the dot in the gimel and when not to put the dot in the gimel. That's why you put two gimels, one with a dot, one without, one with the dot and the daled, one without. Then the gimel letter transcribes as a G. Check your chart. The G letter, I guess, goes with the K letter and the K with a dot under it, and therefore it's a velar sound. And the daled letter is a dental. It transliterates as a D. These are the first four letters of the Hebrew alphabet. And then we go on with the letter Hey. The letter Hey, Hey, I guess she transliterates it as H-E-H. Is that what she does? And again, if you're not familiar with the Hebrew pronunciation, you're going to pronounce that letter as he. You see that H-E there, the way she writes it out? Well, you know an H-E in English as he. That's not the Hebrew word. The Hebrew word is hey. So if you don't mind adding an H at the end, H-E-H is how I would translate that word hey. Not H-E, but H-E-H.
Not H-E-I?
H-E-I sounds like hi. You can do what you want. The main thing is make sure you got the hey sound to it. I was about to say the reason why Edna puts H-E, and I cannot disqualify it, is she is Israeli. Israeli's pronunciation of English is very different. As Ave Garber, born in the Bronx, New York, to Yiddish-speaking parents, and that's how I pronounce my hey. Normally people do H-E-H. She's got an H-E, and if I look at the chart that was given out, if I have a copy of it, you might well have H-E-H as well. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's irrelevant. The main thing is just know how to say the sound of that letter, the hey letter. And when it comes to transcription, just put the letter H. She's giving you the name of the letter. That's why she's writing out what she's writing out. Your focus should be on the transcription. She calls it transcription. I call it transliteration. Transliteration is the more academic phraseology. All right, then the next letter, and then the hey letter. The H letter, look at your sounds where they come from, is a laryngeal letter. So there's something going to connect later in your grammar studies, the Aleph letter and the hey letter, because they are two of the four laryngeals. I'm saying that word laryngeal. Laryngeals are going to affect your Hebrew grammar very seriously. Keep that in mind. And Lavana wants to know how come those letters? Because those letters are from the throat. And when it comes from the throat, it ain't easy to do some of the Hebrew sounds, and certain things have to change. as you'll discover soon in this classroom.
So you said the Hayes are laryngeal, but the Alice are laryngeal too?
The Alice, yeah. If you look at how I gave you the bilabial, how I gave you the letters last week,
Yeah.
you'll notice the Aleph, the Ayin, the Hey, and the Het. Nirvana?
Oh, wouldn't another word for laryngeal be guttural?
Garo, yeah, in Hebrew would be, yeah. Yeah, Garo means the throat, yeah. She's giving me already a term that's from Hebrew. We're in English right now, so it's laryngeals. Then there's other terms people use, but the word larynx is the term. I'm using the vocabulary of the Society of Biblical Literature. And if you read that note from the Association of Jewish Studies, they point out that Garber is correct and SBO follows that tradition. I follow the SBO tradition, which is the standard one. The Association of Jewish Studies has its own tradition, and so you have to grant that too. All right, the next letter number 6, is the Vav letter. Notice so far every letter has numerical value, and it's counting 1, 2, 3, 4. The Vav letter is written like this. All these letters are written on the line upon which you write. Let's keep that in mind. The Vav letter originally was a W sound, so you might want to put that down. She writes the Vav in her transliteration as VAV. I will also add in your chart here, write down WAW, because the original Vav is a W. And as Eli will remind me again, where the Temanim probably do a W sound, which they do, and it's pronounced by certain Jews who have ancient Hebrew pronunciation as a W. Aramaic definitely has it as a W. Hebrew has lost that W among the Ashkenazim in particular, but also many Sephardim as well. She has a coffin, I believe it's a Sephardim background, I'm not sure. She doesn't bother with the WAW because she's interested in lessons in modern Hebrew. You should know it, however, and I want you to know it as Vav. And originally a Wa sound. As a Vav letter, its transliteration is a W, and that's why we consider the Vav letter as a bilabial, and the Vet letter, which has the same sound today, is a labial dental. Let me go over that with you. If you look at a transcription, as she calls it, letter number 2, the Bet letter, she has this Vet. Notice she has the letter V there. That's the V sound today. And letter number 6, the Vav, that's the V sound as well today. Originally, letter 6 was a W, pronounced today as a V. She doesn't show you that distinction. She just has a V for both of them. But when it comes to where the sounds are produced or which family they belong to, the Vet letter is a labial dental, and the Vav letter is a bilabial because of the original W sound to it. The next letter is the Zayin. The Zayin, Z-A-Y-I-N, the Zayin letter. And the Zayin letter, I made a particular point. The Zayin is made like this. The Gimel is made this way. I know it doesn't look the same, but some people make that error. The Gimel goes in this direction to the left, and the Zayin goes to the right. The Zayin letter. The numerical value is 7. It's a Z in transcription, and it belongs to the sibilant family. The sibilant family are 5 different sounds. This is the first of the sibilants. The next letter is the letter Het, the letter Het letter. The letter Het is transcribed as an H with a dot under it. If you want to use popular transcription, you transcribe it as a CH. The Het letter, like the Aleph letter, and like the Hey letter, is a laryngeal letter. Ha is from the deep throat. The Het letter, the Het letter, the Het letter. And quite frankly, if you're going to say a Het letter in this classroom, you have one obligation. You have to clear your throat. You have to drink some water. I don't want you to say a Het, and all of a sudden saliva comes shooting out of you. I've had this in this classroom. I don't know what you people eat before you come to class. Just drink something. I don't want anything spitting out of your mouth. The Het letter, the Het letter. The next letter is the tet letter, the tet letter. Again, notice how it's transcribed. Edna puts the letter T there. Zev Garber puts the letter T with a dot under it. And the reason is there is a distinction between letter number 9 and the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. The last letter is called a tav. We haven't seen it yet. It's transcribed as a T. Letter number 9 is transcribed as a T. And the distinction is what? In pronunciation today, the two letters, different letters, are pronounced the same way. That's part of language. Every language has a letter here and a letter there, which is no longer distinguished. For example, if I take your letter C in English, your letter C is the third letter of the alphabet, right? A, B, C. What sound does C have? If I have C in the word rice, it's an S sound. If I have C in the word cat, it's a K sound. There's no longer a distinguished sound for the C. And what about the letter X? Have my scholars in this classroom ever thought about the letter X? The letter X is either a KS sound, KS, or it's a GS sound. Exit. Can't wait to get out of Garber's class. Exit. You're giving me a GS there.
Also,
For 1 second, if I say 6, SIX, it's a KX sound, KS. X as a distinguished sound is no longer. So people like Chaya and Jeremiah are saying, well, thank you for that. Why do we have it? You want to start deleting letters, you get rid of these letters. Before you know it, the next generation gets rid of other letters. And let me tell you about the generation that's younger than you are. I find it extremely disgusting. Let me be very personal and very, very strong about it. When a man gets killed on a campus, whether you like his politics or not, you do not celebrate it by rejoicing and spitting at him. That's your generation of 19-year-olds right now. Not in front of me, you do that. Disagree, fine, but you don't show disrespect this way. God's sakes. But we're the new generation. What's going to come from that type of attitude? I'm very serious about that, people. I'm not a guy that's very conservative in that sense. I'm open to all kinds of opinions. I respect them. I disagree, whatever. But to show disrespect like that is wrong. Anyway, in English, 2 letters come to mind. The C letter and the X letter no longer have a distinguished sound. And in Hebrew, for God's sakes, with spoken Hebrew, we're losing a hell of a lot of these sounds. The Gimel and the Daleds have 2 different sounds to them. We've lost the ones without the dot and the Gimel and the Dalet. But the ones that we still have a sound to it is the Tet letter and the Tav letter. And they're both pronounced as a T. So she puts a T there. I want you to put a T with a dot under it. That's called a Tet letter. And there are words, common words in Hebrew, which are spelled with the Tet and not with the Tav. The more common one is the Tav letter, but there are words with a Tet in it. For example, the word Peshat. Peshat, when I give you a lesson, I am giving you a Peshat. I'm giving you what's called a Peshat, the basic essence. Peshat. Peshat is spelled with a Tet at the end, not with the Tav at the end. And the word Torah, which is probably one of the more common words of Hebrew, is spelled with a Tav at the beginning, not with a Tet. But how would I know that? I'm familiar with these words. If you spell only by hearing the letter, you're not going to be sure whether it's a Tet or Tav. Was there a question? All right, the Tet letter, and the Tav letter, and the Dalet letter happens to belong to dentals. 2 sets of teeth coming, I guess, together. The letter Yud, what made the Yud distinguish, as I told you last time, is that the Yud letter is suspended in the air. What I mean by suspended, imagine that you're writing your Hebrew on the line. When I studied Hebrew back in grammar school, back in Yeshiva Katana, in high school, and even in college, we were told to bring lined paper to class, and you wrote your letters on the line. so that vowels go beneath the line. Lines or vowels go alongside the letter on the line, and a vowel can be above the letter in the line itself. Anyway, the letter Yud. The letter Yud is the only consonant that's found suspended from off the line. The Yud letter appears to be floating in the air. Why the Yud this way, I don't know. I can only tell you that there's all kinds of interpretations that can be given, and that word Yud sounds like the Yiddish word Yid, which is the Yiddish word for a Jew. The Yiddish word for Jew is Yid, Y-I-D, and the floating Yid, the floating Jew. There are all kinds of narratives that go with that Yid in Yiddish. Anyway, the Yud letter. Yeah, there's another way. Pronunciation. In this classroom, we pronounce that letter as Yud. If you go to a Christian hall of learning, the pastor will call the letter Yud the Yod. The Yod letter, ladies and gentlemen, the Yod letter. Lavana kind of smiles. Christians pronounce it as Yod. Jews pronounce it as Yud. A Yiddish-speaking guy would probably say a Yid. It's definitely not Yid. But Yod is another pronunciation of that 10th letter. Mrs. Coffin doesn't know from how Christians pronounce anything, or maybe she does. Yeah, in fact, I wasn't even aware of it. She writes the word Yod down. She writes the word Yod down. I wasn't even aware of that until now, or at least it didn't hit me right away. All right, notice Coffin as Yod. I pronounce it as Yud. Lewis, you say Yud or Yod?
I was aware that Sephardic pronunciation is Yod.
All right, the Sephardic pronunciation.
Never heard that.
Okay.
I've only ever heard that.
All right, 1 minute now. Lewis is Sephardic background, Ellie's Sephardic background. It's very possible the Sephardim say Yod, and Ellie, who's a real Sephardi over here, he's trying to tell me I've never heard it that way. Again, the Sephardim may well say Yod, and somehow a Sephardic heritage that someone has doesn't know it that way because the Sephardim mix with other groups and hence lose it. And when it comes to Spain, let me get my wrath out right now. How dare Spain and its prime minister use the term, if we had an atomic bomb, we were dropping over Israel right now. How stupid is this man? It sounds like Talcomata, etc. And believe me, I don't know if he meant it as a joke, probably did not, but what he did was something very, very wrong, especially from a statesman, and he'll be correcting himself very quickly. He has no idea how Spanish Jews are going to now respond to all this. And Spain, by the way, a few years ago, has invited its Jews back again, and the Portuguese Jews back again, and you get your citizenship back again. Go figure this out. Anyway, Spain and Yod. I'm not aware of what you said, Lewis. Thank you for that. But Eli is of Sephardic background. He's never heard that pronunciation. And even if it were so, to my understanding, Israelis call it a Yud. I know it as a Yud. I never heard it as a Yod. And then there's another word that comes to mind with a Y in it. The word is Yad. The word Yid, if I take these two letters, the Yud letter and the Dalet letter, I have the word Yid, is Yiddish for Jew. I have the word Yod, I have the word Yud, and I also have an A in front of those two letters, between the two letters. If I say a Yad, Yad already, I think we all can agree, is the word for hand. Yad is hand. But okay, Edna has her way, I have my pronunciation. I will refer to the 10th letter as the Yud letter. Then we get to number 20 here. And again, you count from 11 to 20 by having the Yud Aleph, the Yud Bet, etc. And then two letters or two numbers are going to be distinguished. We don't say Yud Hey because of the connection with the abbreviation of Hashem's name. And so we say Tet Vav, 9 and 6. We don't say Yud Vav, 10 and 6. We have 9 and 7 because Yud Vav are two of the other four letters of the Tetragrammaton. These are traditions. And then I mentioned the last time, in giving charity, there is a tendency among Ashkenazim to do the Chet and the Yud, which spells the word for life. And so 10 and 8 is 18, and donations are given that way. Whereas the Sfaradim will take the transliteration, numerical value of the four letters, Yud He Vav He equals 26, and they give in donations of 26. So are traditions. All right, the next letter is the Kaf letter. The Kaf letter is written like this, and the Kaf letter is written like this. Even Edna makes a distinction. Look at number 20 by her, and she has two letters. She has a K letter and she has an X letter. That X of hers is her tradition. I've never seen that X before, except with her writing, but I might be mistaken. Anyway, the so-called Kaf letter. If that letter that looks like a backward C has a dot in it, it's a K sound. If it does not, it is a KH sound, or put the letter K with a line under it. This is plosive, and this is continuous. Now let me make that statement. The word plosive, the so-called plosive letters of Hebrew, are letters which can only be pronounced once. You cannot continue it at will. And these are the letters of the Bet letter, the Gimel letter, the Dalet letter, the Kaf letter, and we're going to also see the Pei letter and the Tav letter. These 6 letters are known as plosives if they have a dot, known as the light dot in them. The Ba, the Ga, the Da, the Ka, Pa, Ta. You cannot continue at will. Whereas if I drop the dot from that Bet and have the V sound, I can say the Pei letter, Pa, Pa, versus That's what's meant by plosive, exploding air, and spirant or continuing the sound without having to stop until you drop dead trying to continue without any limits. You'll get those terms as well later. Anyway, the Kaf letter is a K sound, and the Chaf letter is a K with a line under it, or a KH. This looks like an olive. It's meant to be a K. The Kaf letter. The Kaf letter, you check your chart, it's a velar sound. The next letter is the Lamed letter. The Lamed letter is an L sound. It's a liquid letter. And we had special numbers. The Lamed had a Lamed Vav attached to it. That's the famous number of the righteous, the 36 tzaddikim. The next letter is the Mem letter. The Mem letter is going to share with the Kav letter that in the final position it looks differently. In fact, I didn't show that. The Kaf letter has something special to it as well. As you have the Kaf letter to be plosive with a dot in it, to be spirant or continuous without the dot, the Kaf letter is one of the 5 letters of Hebrew, which in the final position is written differently. You make the letter Kaf and then you drop a bar, and put 2 dots like that. It's called a shvanach alongside of it. I'll explain that later. A good example of that what I just cited, is the word for king. Notice how I'm spelling with vowels the last letter, melech, the final chaf, and I put 2 vertical dots alongside the bar of the final chaf. Can I write the word melech with a regular chaf? No. As a final letter, 5 letters are written differently. And the question is obvious. Why do we make a distinction with these 5 letters? I don't know, but I will offer you a theory in a second. Why these 5 letters? What makes them so unusual in the final position? I'll get there in a second. The Lamed letter is liquid. It looks like a musical note. I told you that I make the Lamed like this, but people write good Hebrew, write the Lamed going down like this. So my Lamed doesn't look like a musical note. The other way seems to appear like one. Not an issue. Number 40 is the letter Mem. The letter Mem. In a frontal position looks like this, and in a final position looks like this. The Mem letters are the same as far as the sound goes. They're bilabial. They transcribe as an M. It's just that we make a distinction as a final letter the mem is written one way and the frontal medial mem is written another. And both these letters look like English letters. And one of the problems of an English writer, they don't bother to write Hebrew from right to left. They'll write the letter mem as they write the English letter N. And they'll write the final mem as I guess they write the letter A. So if it helps you to make that association, okay. But try to get in the habit of going from right to left. The one word that stands out with the mem letters is the word for water, which is so important. I experienced it this morning. I come to campus, I found a place where I can park my car in the disabled parking spot. I have a disabled parking card. And as I'm walking into the administration building, I see water all over the floor. They're washing the floor. Then while I was washing, sees the professor, or sees me with my little baggage there, stops the water, invites me to walk through the water. What am I going to do, run around? I walked through the water. I was going through the Red Sea. Wait a minute, my everything's wet here. Meanwhile, a group of elders were coming out. I can tell they're Armenians. I said, there's water, it's like the Red Sea. Thank you. That's all they could tell me. They don't speak English probably. Anyway, Mayim, notice how I'm pronouncing it. Mayim, Hebrew accents are the last syllable, but in this case here, you'll study why it's on the second to last syllable. The word Mayim for water. You have a mem here, you have a yumem here, you have a yud. Mayim. Notice the spelling of the word water. Two M's. One is written frontal or medial, and the other is written as final. And then the letter Nun. It's that letter Nun that is my gateway to why the final letters are what they are. The Nun letter in a frontal medial position, numerical value 50, N is its transcription, and as a final letter is written like this. So what's the big deal? If you take a look at the final Nun, if you take a look at the final Haf, if you understand what I said at the beginning of the class, that Hebrew back then were written without any separation. Words after words after words after words follow each other. How would you therefore know the distinction between a final Haf and a final Nun? How much more so when people wrote the final Haf like that and wrote a final Nun like this? How much more so when people did not put what's called a final Shva here? The reason for the final Shva, or the Shvana or Shvanach, and is probably to make sure you don't confuse a final Chaf with a final Nun. Today, it's not a problem. Back then, when you did your cursive writing, everything fell on each other. It's like saying in English a word. Well, I'll give you an expression. The most famous rabbi of what's called Second Temple Judaism by scholars is a man by the name of Rabbi Akiva. Let's get down his name. Rabbi Akiva. Akiva is not Hebrew. Akiva is Aramaic. Why so? You'll learn from me that words which end with a kamatz aleph is Aramaic. It's not Hebrew. Akiva in Hebrew is Yaakov. Yaakov is what you have in Hebrew. Jacob, Yaakov. Again, these vowels you don't know yet. Yaakov, in Aramaic, Akiva. Akiva is an excellent inspiration for this classroom. Akiva knew no Hebrew whatsoever, according to tradition, until the age of 40. 40 back in those days is beyond half the lifestyle, especially if 70 was the cutoff. Akiva is said to have lived 120, just like Moshe Rabbeinu. Akiva was a great master of this and that and that and this. That's how much he learned from the age of 40 and onward. Akiva was also the one who participated in Bnei Brak in what was to be the rabbinical approval of the Bar Kokhba revolt. And there's a phrase on the mouth of Akiva, talking to Ben Kosiba, otherwise known as Bar Kokhba, son of the star. Ata Melech Mashiach. Ata, you, Melech, King Mashiach. You are King Messiah. Those phrase is found in the Talmud. Question: did Akiva actually see Bar Kokhba as the redeemer of the people? Or was
Actually,
it?
I read somewhere that he was viewed as Moshiach at that time.
Yeah, just 1 minute now. See how it fell into it? Of course he did. Is that so? If there's no scribal annotation, could it not also be Ata Melech Mashiach? Listen to how I speak. Ata Melech Mashiach, Ata Melech Mashiach. Same three words, but the intonation of my mouth. The second phrase is a question. Ata Melech Mashiach. If you have a problem, if words are written without diacritical marks by them, you're not sure if it's a declaration, a question, half a sentence, or what goes on. Now you understand why the final nun and the final chaf, they are written so identically. If I can bring the secret manuscript with me, maybe I can next time. You'll see the letters are almost identical. You see it in transcription today, printed Dead Sea Scrolls. But back in the day, you have to read from a manuscript. That's the whole point. If that is so, that explains why there's a tradition by me to put by the final half these two guys here, whereas Israelis don't bother with that. Look at how Edna gives the final half. She puts the half without the two dots alongside the bar. I have a tradition I was raised in. You put the two dots alongside the final half. You don't put the two dots, however, alongside the final nun. The reason is the nun is the nun and the half is a half, and that's how we distinguish the two. When you look at the letters today, they look different. How can you make a mistake like that? Back then, the letters were very similar, is the point I'm trying to make. Lavana?
Would the final chaf in the Torah have the two dots?
No. The Torah has no markings whatsoever. The Torah has unusual problems with that word Shema Yisrael, with a capital letter here, capital letter there. The Torah has the Sabbath, for example, as part of one narrative, whereas your printed Bible has the Shabbat, starting chapter 2 of the Bible, etc. And all kinds of things. And then for those of us who are Christians, I just finished writing an abstract on archaeological findings dealing with the question, where exactly was the Nicene Creed decreed? It's in Turkey somewhere. But where was it? And according to this archaeologist, whose essay I wrote an abstract on, he claims it was in two places by the Sea of Nicaea, etc., etc., etc. But in his particular argument, he basically points out a number of things here. There's a point I want to make about it. Oh yeah, the Nicene Creed. The Nicene Creed is the creed that affirms the second person of the Lord God to be Jesus. Not to be created, but to be of the same essence, co-substantial, as it's called, transubstantiation of the term today. That's the terminology that's found by Orthodox Christians today. You have other Christians who see Jesus as separated from God the Father. And then what I find interesting is that the Nicene Creed of 325, and all of you learned something right now, uses two different words for the deity. Use the word God and use the word Lord, and the word God the Father and the word Lord is for Jesus. Our Hebrew Lahavdil is God is Elohim and Lord is Hashem. And for the Christians in their history, the word God is God the Father, and Lord, the Yud He Vav He, is Jesus. Do you understand what I'm saying? Christians are able to have two entities. Jews only have one, Lord and God, to be one. Christians have Lord and God to be two aspects of the same one. Or they separate them, which is Arianism, which is how some Christians today see God separated from Jesus. I'm getting too deep for you right now. But the way the language is used. And for my friend Lewis, it's interesting to know that the Yud He Vav He is associated with Jesus. And God is separated, according to the Nicene Creed, interpreted by Zev Garber, written up as an abstract, and will be published in a publication called Old Testament Abstracts, of which I'm on the board of directors. So when Zev Garber writes something, nobody's going to question it. I learned from this. I wasn't even aware of this stuff. Most Christians don't even care what the hell I'm talking about right now. That's part of what happens. Academic scholarship disturbs your belief system. Trust me on that. All right, let's get back to where we're doing. Okay, the final mem, the final nun, and again, I repeat myself, I don't know how accurate my theory is. I truly feel that the writing of the two dots alongside the final half is made to distinguish it from the final nun. Though in appearance today, you can see a distinction, but back then, they both looked the same. All right, so having said that, I think that's where we left off last time. The next letter is called, or maybe we did one more letter. The next letter has numerical value of 60, the so-called Samech letter. S-A-M-E-X is how she writes it out. The Samech letter. And looks like actually we did some of these letters before. The Samech letter looks like your letter O in Hebrew, in English, or looks like the numerical value of 0. The Samech letter, as I'll now pick up with the letters over here. The Samech letter. Again, if you want to write right Hebrew, go from right to left. I write it like I write my regular 0. Again, I have certain letters which I just can't break and write it Hebrew-wise. I'm so, controlled by my earliest writings of these letters as a child. The Samech letter. The Samech numerical value is 60. Its transcription is an S. The S letter belongs to the sibilant letters. We saw one sibilant, that was the Zion, is the second one, the S. All right, as we then continue, as you go from 60, you then have the number 70, and the number 70 is a particular sacred number within Jewish tradition, as I'll explain in a second. Number 70 is the ayin letter. Notice the transcription of the ayin looks just like the aleph. And so you can say that the ayin, like the aleph, like the hey, like the chet, are laryngeal letters. That's all I can say about the ayin and aleph. They are both laryngeals. They are both non-pronounced today by the average Hebrew speaker in Israel. They are spoken by those who speak a good Arabic somewhere in their throat. And they are different when it comes to spelling words. 1 second, let me just go into this for a second. The ayin letter is written like this. And again, one of the theories I shared with you last time is where do the names of these letters come from? And I guess the obvious association of the ayin is that the Hebrew word ayin is the word for eye, E-Y-E. When you learn Hebrew vocabulary, the part of your body that sees outwardly is your eye, so it's the ayin. Does the eye have any connection with the letter ayin? I don't think so. It just gives an impression, I guess. So it's called ayin, ayin. Let me see if I want to say something else. I remember telling you something about the fish. Christians have the ayin in a backward form like that. It represents the symbol of Jesus Christ, Lord, God, and Savior. All right, Baruch, you had a question?
Oh, yeah, I just didn't get the source for the why, where's it from, you said? What was the laryngeal, dental, the why?
I'm not.
The yud, would that be classified as sibling, laryngeal, or dental?
I'm not sure what you're saying. The yod letter itself, okay, I guess what you're asking. If you're asking, is the Yud letter identify with which family? The Yud is a palatal. Palatal. Remember the letters I gave you, you're the family. You're right, I should say that.
And then I had
The mem letter, the ma is bilabial.
bilabial and the nun.
The nun letter is liquid.
What is it?
Liquid.
Liquid, thank you.
Okay. You should have that from the very first day I met with you. Go ahead.
Is there any coincidence that the iron letter is the same as the symbol for the captives? The ribbon, the yellow ribbon? Is that
Interesting.
just coincidence?
I heard what you're saying. All right. What Eliezer is asking right now is if you are familiar with the current events from Israel, from Gaza, etc., you'll notice that a number of organizations, a number of publications, including my good friend Lavana, have that little poster. Let me show it to you, right? Where she has the iron around it. Okay. That's basically, it looks like an iron and represents concern for the hostages, etc., etc. I don't know if there's any connection between that and the letter iron. On the other hand, Lewis would say, well, Professor, don't you give us always an interpretation? So the interpretation would be, of course there should be an iron. The iron means to look, see with your eyes. Don't have to hear it all the time. And the proposal being made is all the hostages must be given back. That's what Israel wants. None of this half and half, etc. Because that's what the Hamas position has taken, or Hamas is doing something very devilish, in my opinion. They're causing or having some of the hostages taken from the tunnels, brought upstairs to a tenement building, and let Israel bomb that building right now. They'll bomb their own hostages. This is what a devilish group can do. I don't know what Israel is going to do further, except that they're into Gaza right now. The warning has been given, and I'm almost sure they're aware of hostages being brought to the first floor, and we'll see what happens. It's just a very sad, sad commentary that in Rosh Hashanah this year, the state of Israel, and by extension, the Jewish people, are seen as a pariah nation. You're seen as apartheid, you're seen as colonizers, and chas v'chalila, you're seen as a genocide people. Not in front of me, you're not. But this is now the image of the Jew. What goes on in Israel with demonstrations is one thing. What goes on outside the country should never be repeated, what goes on in Israel. Here you have a different fight that you have to fight. There are a number of individuals who have contacted me, are you okay? Asking, am I all right in this classroom? This campus is okay. It won't happen here. It shouldn't happen anywhere. All right, people, I can't go into politics or issues like that now. It's just going to take us too far afield. Okay, but a good question about the post for, the concern of what goes on in Israel right now and the iron letter. I can't really tell you specifically, except the interpretation I would give. It has that understanding, look and see and learn. And now why the iron being special? I don't know why the number 70 is used. The number 70 goes back to traditional times where it's seen to be the end of a lifespan. And 71 starts a new lifespan. So much so that Ashkenazi Jews to this very day, out of Poland and elsewhere, will celebrate at the age of 83 what they call a second bar mitzvah. A bar mitzvah is not a requirement of Torah traditions or laws. A bar mitzvah is a rabbinic tradition. A bar mitzvah at first was restricted to only a male. Today you find females having a bat mitzvah. A female has a bat mitzvah in Orthodox groups, but not being called up to Torah. But in Israel, there are Orthodox minyanim consisting only of women, and if the women are running the service and reading from the Torah, which they do, then you have a bat mitzvah at a woman's minyan, with a male sitting on that side of the mechitzah, on that side of the separation. The word mechitzah, let's get that word down for you. How much more so if you're unfamiliar with an Orthodox congregation? The word mechitzah. Mechitzah is a division. Mechitzah, we'll learn the Hebrew soon. Mechitzah, where men sit on one side of the curtain or one side of the room and women sit on the other. How powerful is the Mechitza? Go to your news items of the last couple of days. When the Secretary of State Rubio, with the American ambassador and Prime Minister Netanyahu, all visited the Western Wall. And what you had were the three men with kippot on their heads, putting a little sign into the wall. Well, where were the wives? The wives were on the other side of the Mechitza. Now, for many Christians, what's going on here? But there are Christians that would also do a separation. The Muslims have no problem with this. They also into separation. Louis?
I mean, everybody that is involved with like the press has to be male as well. They're taking pictures.
Yes.
I didn't hear your
There
question.
was no, the press also have to be segregated by.
I'm almost sure they did something like that. Unless the press is in the back there. Once you're closer to the wall, they probably had
So if there was
separation.
a female presidency in the future, it'd only be female press allowed on the other side.
If there's a few, then everything will be done on the women's side, yeah.
There's a drape separated.
Probably the biggest example of that is when President Trump's daughter, the first time around, she converted to Judaism and she was out there with the women, she was praying with the women, For many people who are unfamiliar with the separation, this is strange. Or separation is men and women. Whereas the Muslim tradition, women, my understanding, the men are up front and the women are back behind the men. In the Jewish tradition, on the wrong side. And if you happen to go to a women's minyan, which I'm familiar with, you have the women downstairs and the men can sit on the side. This is it. This is a Middle Eastern, you might say, tradition, whatever. And it hasn't really changed among Jews and Muslims this day. So you have less than Orthodox Jews who see no problem of a mixture of the two groups together. I can just tell you that the recent photos of the Secretary of State had him and the American ambassador, who happens to be a Baptist minister as well, have no problem wearing a kippah on their head and praying or saying words, whatever, on the men's side of the section. But anyway, the word mechitza. And what you'll have is the Hebrew word for half, to divide. It's part of that word. All right, there was another point that someone wants to make. Yes, Bob.
The question is, did you guys see the women rabbis from the conservative reform and reconstruction movement? They're on the other side of Mejita, or do they go there at different times?
When they go to the wall, people basically, unless they want to have a little fight going, will follow the tradition at the wall. You have others who feel they can have a mixed minyan, and they will have the minyan in a special section. The women in particular, there's a strong women's movement that feels that they can pray at the wall, that they can read the Torah at the wall, that they wear a prayer shawl at the wall, and they have a whole section.
Yeah, no, I've seen it. Lady rabbis
Yeah,
reading the
yeah.
Torah.
Not a problem there. And what about Christians? I suspect there's also an area where Christians who follow Torah, but they're Christians, they're not Jews as Jews, probably have their little section as well. You got to keep in mind this coattail is Judaism's symbol to the world, I guess. You got to behave how it's going to be divided. But you also have to respect Jewish traditions. Anyway, getting back to all this. When I was in Jerusalem, there were many times I walked to the wall. I was in walking distance, had no problem. It's an exciting experience. Okay, the number 70, yeah, that number 70 again. I don't know why the number 70. All I know is it's a special number, so much so that you'll have beginning of life again. So 83, the next bar mitzvah. A woman's bat mitzvah is at the age of 82. And there's also ceremonies in regard to that, but not necessarily being called up to Torah, unless it's a women's minyan, or unless it's less than Orthodox, I guess. All right, with that said, the number 70 is also synonymous with the nations of the world. I want you to know that number. 70, 71, 72 becomes a symbol synonymous of the Umot Olam, of the nations of the world. If you want to be accurate, academic, I am sure there are more than 72 nations in the world. But it's the number that's used to represent the Goyeh, Ha'olam, the nations of the world. And beyond that number, you have the tradition of the Septuagint. The Hebrew Bible is often referred to as the Masoretic text. Get down the initials, the MT. The word T stands not for Torah. The letter T stands for text, T-E-X-T. Masoretic comes from the word Masorah. Masorah. Masorah is tradition. And so the Masoretic text, I believe it's spelled with two S's, it could be one S. Masoretic text is the text that's written from Jewish handwriting and tradition. Meaning, if you find a Sefer Torah in Yemen, and a Sefer Torah in the Vatican, and a Sefer Torah in North Hollywood, and open the Sefer Torahs, you'll see letter by letter, word by word, section by section, to be almost identical. It's the tradition. Is the original handwritten Torah that way? I don't know, nor does anyone know. Tradition would say yes. You stood at Sinai, Moses gave you not 10 commandments, he gave you the whole Torah. But Jews have a tradition called the Torah Sheba'al Peh. The Baal Peh is oral reading, oral interpretation, oral understanding. And that's what guides Jewish traditions. Having said that, what if you don't read Hebrew anymore? That's where translations come in. And the most famous translation of the Hebrew Bible is probably the Septuagint. The Septuagint is Greek. The Septuagint gets its name because of 70 or probably 72 Jewish elders were separated by the king of the day in different chambers to start translating the Torah into Greek. And when it was all completed, they all started at the same time. So goes the tradition. They all end at the same time. And the Greek translations were all exactly the same. This happened in Alexandria back in the day. Do Jews read the Septuagint for their understanding of the Torah? Not necessarily. Don't worry about the screaming. Anyway, the Septuagint. But the Septuagint has that number 70 in it. Septuagint is 70, 72. Anyway, that's part of Jewish history. The Ptolemies and the Seleucids, and so goes tradition. The number 70, 71, 72, whatever. All right, the next letter is the Pei letter. Notice she has the word pay, P-E, and she has the word Fe, F-E. The Pei and the Fe are one of the 6 Bega Kefa letters. We so far have seen the Bet, the Gimel, the Dal, the Kav, and now the Pei is written with a dot in it, or the Pei can be written without the dot, and if so, it's called a Fe. The Pei letter is bilabial, the Fe letter is labial-dental. And that Pei letter sounds like the Hebrew word for peh. Peh. The word for mouth in Hebrew is peh. So maybe there's a connection between a mouth and the letter Pei when it's written. All kinds of things are offered as explanations. All right, the Pei letter and the F letter, Fe. The next letter, the Tzadi, she offers the letter C to be the transliteration. I see that C, I read it as a K sound, Kadi. It's a Tzadi. The Tzadi letter and the Fe letter. Well, before I go to the Tzadi letter, let me go back to the Fe letter again. The Fe letter is one of the 5 final letters. We've seen so far the Kaf letter, we've seen the Mem letter, we've seen the Nun letter, and now with the Pei letter. The Pei looks like this, and in the final position looks like this. Looks like this. The Fe letter. And then the Tzadi letter. The Tzadi in the frontal and medial position looks like the number 3. The Tzadi in the final position looks like this. Again, why these 2 letters as final positions? I don't know. It's just that it's become standard now. The Pei and the Tzadi. The Tzadi transcription is an S with a dot under it. If you want to make it more popular, you put a T and an S, not a T and a Z, as I did with the word matzah the other day. The Tzadi. And the tzadi has a problem because the next letter is the kuf letter, and people call the tzadi letter the tzadik. The kuf letter, numerical value is 100. The tzadi numerical value is 90. And then the next letter, which he transcribes, the kuf letter. Okay, let me help you with this one. First of all, look at the transcription. She has letter K. Look at number 20, the kaf letter. She has the letter K. You see that? And for the haf letter, she puts the letter X. And that X letter is identical with the letter Het. And the coffin uses similar symbols for a number of letters. I don't want you to get into that habit. Again, the Tet letter, you put a dot underneath the T. For the Chaf letter, you put a K with a line under it or have KH. The Aleph and Ayin are written in two different directions. The Tzadi letter, you put not a C, put a TS. And then the next letter, she calls a Kof. I know the letter's a Kuf. Write down the transcription KUF. 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 She writes Kof. If you're willing to say Yod instead of Yud, then Kof will go for your Kof letter. I'm saying Yud for the 10th letter, and I'm saying Kuf for the Kuf letter. My pronunciation goes back to my childhood. We both agree the numerical value is 100. That's not the issue. We both agree on how you write out the letter in Hebrew. That's not the issue. It's the transcription. Put a K with a dot under it. A K with a dot under it is the Kuf letter. She leaves it as a K. Why so? Because it's pronounced, so to speak, the same way as a Kaf letter is pronounced. That's the reason why. But it's confusion when it comes to writing. The letters are two different letters. Again, this is a Kaf letter, this is a Kuf letter. Transcription is a K, and this is a K with a dot under it, and the letter Gimel is the G letter. These are the three velars. This is the emphatic velar, like the Tet letter is the emphatic dental.
Should the kuf letter start a little bit more to the left and more to the right? More
No,
to the right?
you write it from right to left.
I understand. So should it go longer, like a half?
1 second. Not quite sure I hear the question. You write from right to left. If you're asking about this particular guy here, okay. The letters that are written on a line, two of them so far, the Nun letter breaks the line upon which you write. The final Chaf letter breaks the line upon which you write. And the Kuf letter, you can also say that bar breaks the line a little bit.
What I was referring to was the top. What looks like you could say a half.
And
Should it go farther to the left over the line? You have it stopping.
well, I'm not sure what you're referring to. The Kaf letter itself, actually, you can write it on the line. The two letters that go below the line is the final Nun and the final Chaf. Yeah, okay, let me get that straight. The final Chaf, Hebrew does not have a word that has the final Kaf like this. It will have always a final Chaf. So maybe that's what you're referring to. There's no final Kaf in Hebrew. In the final position, it would always be a final Chaf. Yeah, let me take this back. The final Kuf letter is probably on the line upon which you write. And distinguish between the Kaf and the Kuf, I think I gave you two words the last time. The word kasher, common words, kasher, and the word kodesh. This word means holy. This word means ritually correct, kasher. They both have a K sound at the beginning. So if the Israeli doesn't make a distinction in his sound or her sound, how can you write the word? You have to be familiar with it. Okay, before we do any kind of break, I want to make sure we finish the alphabet. Okay, that takes care of that. And then I mentioned last time, there is a tendency among beginners of Hebrew, and others as well, who mispronounced the name of the tzadi letter. The 90th letter, the letter which has a value of 90, is called a tzadi. Some people say it's called a tzaddik. A tzadi, they pronounce as tzaddik. And the only reason they say it's a tzaddik is they add the letter kuf to the word tzaddik. Please don't make that error. And then you go from 100 to the number 200. So the question is, how do I say 130? You take the number for 100, that's a kuf, and you take the number for 30, that's a lamed, so kuf lamed. How do I say 101? You take the kuf, and you take the aleph, kuf aleph. How do I say 157? The 100 is kuf, the 50 is a nun, and Zion is the 7. So kuf, nun, Zion. Becomes 200, we shift to the letter resh. The letter 200 is resh. The resh letter, R is the transliteration. It belongs to the liquid letters. The lamed letters are liquid, the nun letters liquid, and now the resh letter. The resh. The writing of the resh letter. That's the resh. The resh. And probably one of the examples of a resh letter is the word for head, rosh. Rosh, head, as in the phrase Rosh Hashanah. Israelis, some of them have a tendency of trilling the resh, or trilling the resh. I can't even trill it. Question, is that authentic? Answer is no. Hebrew does not trill the resh letter. But if you want to sound Israeli, start trilling it. If you want to make an impression, start trilling your resh. Here's a good example where sounds have been reinvented. Do you people speak English with running the resh? Do you trill the R in English? Do you? Do you trill the resh? Do you roll your resh, your R letter?
No, like in Spanish you do, but not in English.
No. Okay, if you don't do it in English, then why do it in Hebrew? But somehow in Hebrew, it sounds more romantic. All right, from the resh, we then go to for 200 to 300. 300, you have the shin and the sin. That S-I-N is mispronounced as sin. It is pronounced as sin in Hebrew, but it doesn't mean sin in the sense of an infraction. Let me make this very clear because Israeli Hebrew can be very confusing right now. In fact, that word rosh will guide me. The shin letter and the sin letter both look the same. The shin letter has a dot to the right of that letter that looks like an E, and has a dot to the left of the letter for the S sound. This is an SH, and this is an S with a line like this. Again, it is a problem of other letters of Hebrew. The sibilant letters of Hebrew, let's get them all down. We have the samach letter, we have the shin letter, we have the sin letter, we have the tzadi letter, or the zayin letter. This is S, this is SH, this is S like a marker this way, this is S with a dot under it, also popular TS, and the zayin is a Z. This is the regular S sound of Hebrew. This is the regular Z sound. The samech versus the zayin. Then you got three phonemes in between. And one that looks like a letter E with a dot to the right is SH. The SH academically is transliterated as an S with a little marker like this. This S that has the S with a marker like that is the sin letter. The problem is Israelis write the form without distinguishing the shin from the sin. They just know the word. That's the issue. The tzadi is not a problem in writing it. The problem is in transliteration. S with a dot under it. TS is more popular, but the letter C is in the Kafir's way of doing it. And so, if I were to write the word head, this is how an Israeli writes it. The resh I can recognize. The aleph is not a consonant, it's a sign of a vowel here that you have to learn. And then this last letter, is it a sin or is it a shin? Well, you know the word rosh, so you read it as a shin. But if you don't know the word, how would you know the distinction? You don't. And what Edna does, she puts an SH for the shin, and then for the sin letter, she doesn't make a distinguish with the samech, because in Israeli Hebrew, the sin and the samech are pronounced the same today. There was once a distinction. And then finally, the letter tav. The letter tav is 400. If you think the tav is an easy letter, it is not. The tav letter has a problem between Ashkenazim and Sfaradim. That problem still exists today. To begin with, the tav is one of the 6 begakafat letters, a dot and without a dot. In Sephardic Hebrew, the tav with a dot, without a dot, are both pronounced as a T sound. In Ashkenazi Hebrew, the tav with a dot is a T sound, without the dot, it's an S sound. Is an S sound, an S sound. Let me give you an example. The Torah of Moses, the word Torah, the word Torah. No problem. If I want to say the Torah of Moses, I write the word Torah. Look at the spelling at the end. This is the absolute word Torah. This is Torah of. Torah of is Torah. Notice my spelling. Torah has a dot in it, and the next tab doesn't have a dot. Ashkenazim pronounce it as Toras, Toras Moshe. They don't say Torah Moshe. Sfaradim say Torah Moshe. They give a T sound for both the tav with a dot and the tav without the dot. This we will pick up somehow. For our purposes, it's a dental letter, a tav letter at the end. And it's written 2 ways, with a dot in it and without a dot. All right, before you take your break, let me just go over some things. I'm looking at the new year that's about to begin. The new year that's about to begin is 5786. The question is, how do you write 5786 in Hebrew? The number 5 represents the millennium. According to Jewish tradition, the world began 6 millenniums ago, and we're now in millennium year 5786. So what you do is you take the Hebrew value of 786. 700, why don't you all look together? Look at your Hebrew numbers, and what would give you the number 70? 700. What will give you number 700? Anybody?
Zion Kuf.
The Kuf?
Zion.
The dollar? The number 700. How would you give me 700 for the numerical values that you see here? Louis?
Tav Shin.
That's it. Do you see how he works? Look at the number Tav, it's 400. Look at the number Shin, it's 300. So Tav Shin, just 1 minute right now. That's 400 and 300. And then we got to work with the number 86. So the number 80 is what letter?
Hey.
Hey. And the number 6 is, again? 6. Number 6 is a Vav, right? All right, so Tashba. You're about to enter into the year Tashba. Tashba.
What about the 5?
The Tav is 400. The Shin, if you want me to vocalize it properly, you put a little dot over there, is 300. The Pei letter, you don't have to bother to put dots there, you just leave them the way they are. That's number 80. And then the Vav letter is 6. I want to show you one other trick. Let's make sure. The year 1947, 1948. 1948. I want to know how to convert 1948 into the Hebrew calendar. Write down a secret that nobody knows. Whatever year you have in your secular Christian years, these after all are Christian years, from BC to CE to AD to BCE to, don't even know, to AD, to BC and CE. 2025 is a Christian year. These are Christian traditions. So we take the Christian year of 1948. What you do is take the number 1240. The number 1240 is a number nobody knows. It is a mystery. Whatever year you have after 1240, use 1240 and subtract that number from it. So 1948 and 1240 gives you 80708. Now give me the Hebrew calendar for 708. The Tav, the Shin, the Medinat Yisrael was established Bishnat Tashach, Tav, Shin, Het. Wow. The key word is 1240. What if you go before 1240? I don't know. And Jeremiah is always inquisitive. What's so special about 1240? Inquisition, Crusaders, conversion. I don't know. It's just that it works.
What does 708 turn out to be?
I don't know why 1240. All I know is whatever year you have after 1240, subtract 1240 from that year. So 1948, I want to know the Hebrew date. I subtract 1240, I get 708, and then I get the value of 708. Tashach, that's the year. All right, people, it's been a long time so far. Take your 20-minute break. You come back, we're going to do vows with you. Vows are important. Okay, thank you for being very tolerant.
Why did we skip the 5? In other words, it's 5-7.
5 is meant to be the millennium. That it's just understood.
Where did you live in Israel?
I'm sorry?
Where did you live in Israel?
My family lives in Jerusalem,
Jerusalem.
Shapiot Mizrach. In fact, I was in Israel a number of times, but my family, they had their home or their apartment in Shapiot Mizrach. Let me just get my water for a second. I'm grateful I was able to get through the hour okay. I was concerned. Okay. Ay. Louis, we're now meeting another hour. I'm just gonna- Are you familiar with Charlie Burke?
Yeah.
I presume he's from evangelical background.
I think so, yeah.
But
We
is
did have
it-
a lot of dialogue with Catholics and all types of Christians, I think. but
Yeah, okay.
pretty sure evangelical, yeah.
His Sabbath book is coming out. I asked to review it.
Hmm.
But he's really observant. Everything shuts down by him.
Wow.
No radio, no this, no that.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what throws me. It's one thing to observe the Sabbath, but to do it in a very orthodox fashion. Next question, I wonder if he kept kosher. My sense is it was the Sabbath. He felt it was a commandment that nobody was observing. Give us the 10 Commandments, that's how he,
Right.
yeah. Tragedy. Very bad. Yeah. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I thought of you immediately with his Sabbath observance. How many Christians are into this now?
Yeah.
And your videos of the class, you get a lot of viewers.
Yeah.
I want to send you something with this the Ugandan Jewish community.
Mhm.
The young man there, he's like you are. He's trying to help his community. He said, Professor, could you spread the word about what we do, etc.
Right.
And they have a beautiful slides of key quotes.
Wow. Oh yeah, I think you sent an email.
Yeah, I did send it to you. Yeah, if you could put it on your other website, yeah. He sent me a picture of his grandmother. He said, we're trying to make Rosh Hashanah meals for everybody.
Wow. I wonder what they're going to do for Sukkot.
Well, they observe it. They apparently have their freedom to do what they want there.
That's good.
But and they apparently there's different groups of Ugandan Jews. They now merged together, which is good. You know, he just asked to be a friend on Facebook, and all of a sudden I didn't expect this to come about. Okay, when I have a moment, I'll send this stuff to you.
Well, I was going to ask when it comes to the letter Yod and or Yud and Kuf, when we write out the letters, it would be Yud Vav Dalet, right? Like the name of the letter itself. What vowel would the Vav be? Would it be a shuruk or would it be a chalam?
It will be a sure good.
It'd be a shuruk.
If you want to make it a yod, then you make it a cholam.
Right. Right. Okay. Same would go for the Kuf.
Where does the good come in?
Because in Spanish, I've heard it as Kof.
Oh, I see.
So Yod, Kof.
I pronounce it as yod and kuf. If you go as kuf,
Right.
then that's where you got the Spanish.
And,
Whereas Eli apparently says he only knows as yod.
well, I guess the same would also go for the letters that include a tseri pronunciation, because the A, that's more I've seen Ashkenazi, where in terms of, let's say, Spanish backgrounds, they don't say A, it's just E.
Yeah.
So instead of Bereshit, Bereshit, E. Same would go for the letter Hey, is He.
Whereas I make a distinction, the tsere is A,
Yeah.
and the sego is A.
Well, yeah, so what I've seen, like the Spanish pronunciation is like both the tseri and the segor are the same E sound.
Well, that's the problem. Let me put the chart on the board.
Yeah,
Okay.
If
Thank
you
you.
need any help, let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Quick question.
Go ahead, Yvonne.
Okay, the sadi is, what was the origin of that sound?
The tzadi, you talk about the transcription?
Yeah, what was the, like, marginal, sibling, liquid? What is it?
I'm not sure what your question is.
And so I'm labeling them all on the right-hand side of them, what family they're from?
Oh, the tzadi itself is a sibilant.
Okay, it's a
Like,
sibling.
sibilant, like the S letter, the Zion letter.
And then the kuf, the
That's a velar.
velar. And then you have the, okay, so the shin and the sin. So the shin is,
S and shin is also sibilant, and the sin is a sibilant.
oh, they're both sibling. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, there's some difference. Okay, and then the final one is, sorry about that. Okay, so regarding the vav, so the way the Taimans pronounce it, with a W, it's bilabial. Is bilabial?
You transcribe it as a W,
Yeah.
first of all. But
Would it be labial or dental or bilabial?
a W, just think of saying it's bilabial,
Uh-huh.
and the pronunciation as a V sound is labial dental.
Okay, right, I have it right.
I got to put the chart on the board. Okay, thank you. So yes, I got to put something on the board. Go ahead, what's your question? 1 minute.
But hey, they showed this on this thing that I got. That's hey.
Yeah,
You have it as that. You can see either way.
either way,
Okay, so it
you
doesn't
can write it
matter.
like this too. You know. This also is very common.
This is also 9 years ago, my first time
Oh,
with my family,
it's very beautiful.
my daughter.
Very beautiful. She's the one who lives in Israel.
Yeah. And there's a great, if you ever south of Hadera, there's a great bakery called Yaakov.
Oh, no, the camera's there.
Hey,
Are you still recording?
Yeah. Basically, when you record with just your phone, it records with the microphone from your phone.
Yeah.
Which means distortion. You can't really hear it. It's like the echo, This 35 for another.
The YouTube, this device.
Yeah, you just turn it on, they're automatically there.
Just right on the back of this one right here.
But most of them are the same. No, that one. That one I think I actually got it right. I wouldn't go for like a long. Depending on what you do, like.
Yeah. It's like medium,
Yeah.
No one that like. That.
oh, hi.
Doing that.
How you doing? Okay, my head's reserved. I'm doing fine, thank you.
And the mic, so that's why.
Everything okay?
Yes, sir. Getting better.
Have your job?
Yeah, part-time, yeah.
The class meets from 11:20 to around 1:50. If you ever free, just come inside.
I will.
Yeah.
I might come back.
Yeah.
Just gotta, I'm taking classes here again,
You are, yeah.
film classes.
Yeah. I've had some surgery. I'm doing okay.
Doing okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry I didn't ask you.
Yeah, well, they found some poison from my pacemaker 31 years ago.
Oh, my.
But everything's okay, yeah.
I'm gonna make a prayer for you.
And I'm still teaching. I enjoy teaching.
Yeah, you look good.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Well, there are, like, let's say this one, right? Yeah. I got the one that's like. If I ever use it as a camera. So, well, actually, I think you're gonna need a.
Okay, because I looked onto the canvas.
No, yeah, this is pretty much.
So I will access it for you.
Yeah, you can just go Elem either one or look up my name.
Oh, can you write it down? Maybe it hasn't updated or what, and I was trying to, I was trying to.
The thing is that it's because I'm only available on Tuesday.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I know, because I was like, well, let me go see what I missed.
Yeah.
You're like, I can't even email my teacher, but the name of it. Thank you.
Of course. Update it.
Okay.
Different.
What am I doing wrong? I'm trying to look at it.
Reduced.
No, we're not there yet.
Oh, we're not there yet. Oh, no.
I was looking at the Lord Siri. Oh, my mind is going wow. Okay. You just had a visitor in class right now.
Would that be a patach?
Yes. I would have gotten it. Okay. Everything else is okay. Okay.
What does that mean?
Originally, law come by development, so the law, hold on. There's just a few words that have the law come by. Okay.
I actually got into a debate a while back about diphthongs. The combination of vowels, was that already in circulation in the time of the like Torah writing, or is that more?
I'm sure it was, but somehow we don't see this in our system. I guess that's in my knowledge.
Got it.
Now, your Hebrew lessons, do you bring out the diphthongs?
I do bring out the diphthongs, and then somebody tried correcting me about it, saying that it's more modern than it is
Yeah.
biblical Hebrew. And
That's hard to say. Biblical Hebrew, the way it was spoken, who knows how it was spoken. If you look at the Samaritans, they speak an ancient Hebrew.
all right. What about the Yemenites?
Yeah, but that's also, yeah, but then again, there might be Arabic with them. The Samaritans were more located in the traditional land. And today, who knows, the Israelis have a way of taking sounds and putting them together.
Right.
And they have a way of not saying some of the sounds.
Yeah.
When it comes to spelling, they recognize words, so it's not an issue, but it's important to have the vowel system down a little bit.
Right.
And when the people see the Hebrew that you have on the dashboard there, are they able to read the Hebrew, or they read it in transliteration?
Few people can read the Hebrew.
Okay.
Yeah, very few. But others, they do need the translator.
Does the community, do you refer to the fellowship as a church or as a fellowship?
I refer to it as community, but
Okay.
I understand that people.
Do they have classes in Hebrew? You should teach them Hebrew then.
Yeah, that's the like my girlfriend's mother learned because I was teaching the classes there. It's just the trouble was that we could only meet once a week, and I told him that learning a language was not once a week. It was supposed to be daily
Yeah.
practice, and people had work, people had other obligations, so only very few people actually. I think out of 15 people, only 3 of them got the alphabet, got the vowels, and they can read slowly, but still. Because the article Chumash that we use, each comment starts with the Hebrew header and then the translation. So they're able to read the Hebrew header and then follow with the Spanish. Good for them.
No, what you're doing is remarkable. I guess if you have a more permanent place, you might even have a Sefer Torah.
I think so, yeah. Only if we have a permanent place.
Yeah, of course. And the Torah scrolls can be of different sizes.
Right. Yeah. The conservative synagogue in Thousand Oaks, they have, I think, I saw 6 Sefer Torahs. And I was under the impression that each Sefer Torah was one book of the Bible, but they said that they're all 5. They're all 5. They just have 6 that were donated.
Yeah, well, I guess over the years, they inherited,
Yeah,
or
they've had that.
it could be like 1 or 2 of them have errors in it, so they don't bother to correct it. They just simply.
And I learned that tradition from you, where each time the sofer wrote the name of God, you have to go into the mikveh.
He should go to the mikvah.
Every single.
So what they do is the word of God can be found a number of times. So instead of going to the mikvah, they keep the space, then they go once, and they come back and they write in the name. Particularly in medieval times, in places like Poland where it's so cold, you get to a mikvah, even that was a miracle.
But today, are they warmed?
And what?
Are they warm now? Like, let's say a mikveh near here.
Oh,
like
I'm
indoor
sure there is.
heated water.
Yeah.
Do they let men in?
How's that?
Do they let men in?
Into a mikvah, yes. You're associated mikvah with menses, etc. Now you can go to a mikvah. In fact, very, very Orthodox Jews on Friday, every Friday, go to the mikvah in honor of the Shabbat. It's a ritual cleaning.
Never knew it.
Yeah.
I know in Pico, there's
Oh, sure.
nice ones.
There's one at Sharet Tzedek, the synagogue he used to belong to.
You have to pay to go in?
Otherwise,
You have to pay?
I think so.
I think you give a
I
donation.
don't- Nothing's free.
I
What
was,
about
I was about to say, I would not be shocked if you have Christian ministers, particularly in Israel, who go to the mikvah.
are they allowed?
I don't think they will be excluded unless there's a reason politically. So the reason why not.
I was gonna ask about the Western Wall discussion. Do you have to pay to go?
No.
No, that's free. To go all the way up
But
there.
you basically give a little donation, but you could also use the mikvah, the ocean,
Ah,
any free body of water.
you need to be under rabbinic supervision.
No, I guess depends if it's for conversion, definitely.
Right.
But if it's ritual bath, I guess you have different traditions. And I would not be surprised that you have African Christians, etc., who go to a mikvah or go to body of water.
Is it? Or Rosh Hashanah, go to the ocean and then do pockets? Which one?
Yeah, people that would do that because of all the holidays.
Tashri? It's Rosh Hashanah, right? You go to a river.
Also, you empty out your sins.
Yeah, something like that.
I don't think you give money on Rosh Hashanah.
No, you
No, no,
mentioned
no,
You
no,
go
no.
by, oh, I didn't know about that. You go by where body of official water, and you say the tashli.
Yeah, yeah.
Cast away your sins into the water. That's on.
Oh, yes, I didn't hear what you said.
I was trying to remember whether it's Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah that traditionally you go to the ocean. and empty your pockets.
Yeah, that's before Yom Kippur. Throw away your sins, type of thing.
If you haven't been to the wall, you should do it. It's amazing to see. Then you have to remember that at the top of the wall, above, is one of the most revered
Oh,
Temple Mount.
dome. Yeah.
What he's referring to is the so-called 10 days of Shuvah. It's your Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, casting away your sins.
Right.
But the Temple Mount, that's where the Holy of Holies is.
All right.
That's an interesting thing. That, they say that the Jews want to go take that and turn that. They never go there because they wouldn't go there. That's forbidden.
Okay,
Part of the capital.
all right, let me just see if there's anybody else out there.
He only went in there on the high holiday at the end of the year. There were like about 200-300 couples that went in for the time when there was corruption and every time they went into the either because they weren't appointed for that or what.
All right, dear people, I want to get started right now. I guess Ellie and Levana will be coming in. So my voice is still there. All right, what I want to do now are what's called syllables of Hebrew or also the vowel system. So bear with me as I try to get back my voice a little bit. To begin with, syllabication. Syllabication consists of what's called consonants and vowels.
Sorry about that. Oh, just go on.
Oh, good. All right, people. This is like a real family here at Mishpacha. I don't mind the interruptions this way. They're really part of a family. Okay. All right, the first thing I want you to do is write down the following. Write down the letter CV, CVC, CVCC. Okay, there are basically 5 syllables in Hebrew. A syllable is a combination of a consonant and a vowel. You can also argue that a syllable is just simply a vowel by itself. I'm not going to go that far. Legitimate syllables in Hebrew would be one of these 5, of which the more common ones are CV, consonant vowel, or consonant vowel consonant, or a more rare example, consonant vowel consonant consonant. So if I really want to be very particular, 2 main syllables of Hebrew are CV and CVC. The question is, what's the big deal? First of all, it deals with how the words are pronounced in Hebrew. Secondly, it deals with what's called the accent. The accent in Hebrew words, if you ever have any doubt, always hit the last syllable. When I say syllable, the thing that comes to mind is consonant and vowel, or consonant, vowel, consonant, and very rarely is a syllable consonant, vowel, consonant, consonant. Then I have two more syllables on the board, and that letter ayin deals with what's called the shva. And now that we're able to write some Hebrew, the word shva is spelled with a shin. You'll notice that marker there. You'll notice that marker there, and it's called a shva. In transliteration, you can write it out like this. Shirwa, shirwa is how the academics will write out that word shva. I am not concerned with academic university teaching. I'm concerned with basic Hebrew as can give us, as can be spoken in Israel, as we can speak it here, as we can read, as we can learn. So when you have a syllable that has a shva, the shva will be identified by the letter ayin. That word shva, the letter ayin. Well, it looks like an ayin. Let's put it that way. Unless Professor Garber, the word shva should be spelled this way. See how confused I am? Does the word shva get spelled with an aleph at the end, or does it get spelled with an ayin at the end? And when we see Mrs. Coffin, she introduces the word shva. Let me go to the source itself, and we'll see how she writes the word shva. No, she spells it with an aleph. I'm looking at page 5. She has that word shva spelled out there. She spells it shin vav aleph. But why the ayin? If you look at page 5, if you have a textbook, she has the next phrase, shvana. The shva that has a sound to it is called a shvana, spelled nun ayin. And the shva that doesn't have a shva sound to it is called a shvanach. So that's the explanation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a lesson right now. Even the professor wasn't ready for this. The word shva is spelled correctly with an aleph. There are two shvas in Hebrew. They are both written the same way. The letter X represents any letter of the Hebrew alphabet. The shva are two dots, one underneath each other, not alongside each other, but underneath. The shva that has a sound is called the shvana, spelled with an ayin. The shva that is silent, is called a shvanach. So when we write C ayin, this is a consonant with a shvanah. That ayin represents the shvanah. And then CV. And then the C ayin, the shvanah, and CVC. All of this is in the air right now. When you have working examples, you'll begin to see how it fits in. All right, let's get some words down. Let's get down the word shalom. The word shalom in Hebrew, spelled without vowels, looks like this. We will write it with vowels. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 letters, so it appears. But one of the letters is a vowel, as we'll soon learn. The letter shin has a kamatz under it. So breaking it into syllables, consonant, vowel. Vowels in Hebrew are found underneath the letter that they accompany or alongside the letter that they accompany. My first syllable is a shin with a kamatz. I stop here and say, does this syllable still continue? Do I continue with the lamed? Do I continue with the next one, That's where you have to know the chart. And we'll discover that a medial kamatz, which this is, does not have to be part of a closed syllable. So just trust me. The first syllable is open and is regular, CV. The second syllable is the lamed, the vowel marker of an O, the final mem, it's CVC. So the word shalom has two syllables. The first is an open syllable. A syllable ending in a vowel is called open. A syllable ending in a consonant is called closed. I repeat, a syllable ending in a vowel is open, syllable ending in a consonant is closed. Shalom. Then we have other issues. The Hebrew accent is normally not the first or medial syllable in the word. It's the end. Furthermore, when we have a long vowel and a closed syllable, it must always be accented. The word is not shalom, but shalom, shalom, shalom. Long vowel, closed syllable always must be accented. How do I know that vowel is a long vowel? We're going to show it to you in a second. And normally, the last syllable in the word is accented. Then you have a word such as my name. My name is Ze'ev. That's how you write it without vowels. How would you know how to read the word? Unless you're familiar with the word, you need vowels. You need a vowel that looks like this that we haven't seen yet. You have a vowel that looks like this. This is a shva. So I have my constant Zion. I have a shva that follows. I write it like this. It's a shvana. A shvana. A shva with a sound to it. Whenever you find that shva under the first letter, it's always sounded. It's not soundless. So it's constant shva. And then the syllable cannot end with a shvana. You go on with the next combination. The aleph. Let's go at it this way. Then you have the tsere. Then you have the consonant. So my name is a, which means wolf, is monosyllabic. It's the consonant zayin, the shvana, indicated by the ayin, z, the sound. I then continue with the consonant aleph, has a vowel tsere under it. We don't know the names yet. And then it has the final vet, ze'ev, ze'ev. That's how you pronounce my name in Hebrew. In English, it's zev, zev. In Hebrew, it's ze'ev, ze'ev. And there are many ze'evim running around, wolves, who spell their name in English Z-E, they do this, they do that. That's their way of making sure in English you pronounce the Hebrew better. Ze'ev. I write it just simply as Z-E-V. All this is difficult right now. We now need to go into vowels. But just know that Hebrew syllables are CV or CVC, and then it's rare to have one that has CVCC. Two consonants, one vowel, and one consonant. And then when you have the shvas, you repeat the first two again with a shvana. I'll go into that soon. The main thing this hour is to go into the vowels. The Hebrew vowel system is long, medial, and short. Edna Coffin and many people, other people, do not bother with medial vowels. I do for the purpose of academic and for the purpose of proper pronunciation. So let's begin. The vowel sounds of Hebrew, I'm using your Indo-European system. This letter A, E, I, O, U, which give the following sounds. The ah sound, these are vowels. Ah, that A or E. The letter E stands for an A sound or an S sound. A sound or S sound. The letter I is an E sound. And here's where the confusion comes in. If the letter I is an E sound, why don't you put the letter E up here? Because we don't. The letter E for our purposes is or is A or E. Write down something that indicates that. A or S sound. The letter I represents an E sound. The letter O represents an O sound. And the letter U represents an U sound. Oo, oo, oo. So the 5 letters on the board, the letter O seems to say the name. O is an O sound. Seems to be, it's not true. Then we start with the first problem. Notice what I did. The X letter represents any letter of the Hebrew alphabet. She puts the letter chet, I guess, for her showing of the vowels. My consonant would be the letter X. I put a marker that looks like a hammer. This particular marker can be written this way or can be written this way. It's called a kamatz. If you need to spell the spelling of that word, go to a chart. You have the chart page, I believe, or the names of the vowels. If you have the textbook, you certainly have it, as found on page 5. You'll notice she has the vowel sign with the letter het. She has the vowel name without vowels, going from right to left. She then has the name of the vowel, and she writes K-A-M-A-Z. Her Z is that TS sound. Notice how she writes it. The letter het, and she puts what looks like a cross. It's really not a cross. It's called a kamatz. A kamatz. A kamatz. And then the second line, she writes kamatz katan. I'm giving you the chart differently. She's not giving you a chart. She's putting the same vowels together. I'm making a distinction. This is called a long kamatz, a kamatz gadol. If you want the Hebrew term, the word gadol means large or big. Kamatz gadol. Just know it as the long kamatz. I now indicated a marker that says developed into the long cholam. So keep this in mind. The long kamatz once existed in Hebrew. It no longer functions. It has been replaced by the long O sound. That is why I put long kamatz developed into the long O. Mrs. Coffin, on the other hand, who's Israeli army trained, who's a professor, was a professor at the University of Michigan, she writes down the word kamatz, and then she writes the next line, kamatz katan. What she means to say is the kamatz that she's talking about is the medial kamatz. She doesn't bother to make that statement. It's Abe Garber does. You are disciples of Zev. You're going to follow my tradition. Now, what about the long kamatz? The long kamatz still exists in here and there, a word here and a word there. Let me give you an example. The word for week. When the Shabbat enters, sunset on Friday ends at sunset on Saturday, Shabbat Shalom. And then starting Saturday night, Charlie Kirk's family will no doubt know the phrase Shavua Tov. Shabbat Shalom, and then Shavua, 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 the word for week. Shavua. What a patach, a stolen patach is called. That vowel, that patach vowel, which is found over here, is really artificial. That patach vowel is a glide. That oo sound, oo, and the ah sound with the ayin, ooh-ah, 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 shavua, shavua. This is not a legitimate vowel. It's just a marker showing the following. You're saying shavu, and then you're gliding with an ah sound to the last letter. We don't leave the vowel, hanging. We put it underneath the last letter. It's called a stolen patach. You'll learn more about that later. The word shavua comes from the Hebrew word 7, sheva. Sheva, 7 days. 7 days. So sheva, 7 days. Shavua, a week. I want to say weeks in Hebrew. The word weeks in Hebrew is shivuot. Shavuot. You'll learn why the kamatz here reduces to a shvana. But there happens to be a holiday. Not Rosh Hashanah, not Sukkot, not Yom Kippur, not Pesach, but 7 weeks after Pesach, known as Pentecost, 50th day. And by the way, the word Sunday. The Nicene Creed established 2 things in 325. One is the co-substantiation of Jesus as Lord, with Hashem as God, and also the holiday of Easter, separating it from the Jewish holiday of Passover. Not going away, but somewhat. 50th day from the Sunday of the resurrection. Jews call it Shavuot. Shavuot! They don't call it Shavuot. The holiday in Hebrew of Pentecost is Shavuot. How come 7 weeks is Shavuot? How come the holiday of Shavuot is with the Kamatz? Oh, I know, says Baruch. It's because it's a holiday. But from this moment on, my dear students, you have now an advantage that no one knows. The Kamatz of Shavuot is the original long Kamatz. It's a good example of one of the few words of ancient Hebrew with a long Kamatz that did not lose it to a long Cholam. Shavuot versus Shavuot. They both mean the same thing, 7 weeks. But the Shavuot is the original long Kamatz. Okay, I think that takes care of that. And so the letter A, the last sound, is really no longer functioning, you might say. They're here and there a word or two, and developed into the long Cholam. The letter E represents the A sound, or the S sound. So when you see a marker like that, 2 dots that look like this, with a yud that follows, or even 3 dots, these are called a long sereh. This particular vowel is called a tsere. A tsere. Look at her chart and you'll see the 2 dots somewhere, and she writes out the word tsere with the letter C. The tsere. Keep in mind, it's 2 dots horizontal, 3 dots that look like 2 eyes and a dot for a nose. This is called a segol. This is called a tsere. But make sure, for our purposes, it's followed by the yud letter. The long tsere and the long segol. This is an A sound. This is an S sound. The long E in Hebrew, called a chirik. This is a chirik with a yud that follows. A dot underneath the letter, and the yud must follow. You must have this combination. The chirik followed by the letter yud. And I guess before I go any further, I should say this. There are 4 letters of Hebrew which function both as a letter, as a consonant, and also as a vowel. The letter Aleph, the letter Hey, the letter Vav, and the letter Yud. These 4 consonants can also play the role of a vowel. Really? Really. And here we're seeing the Yud letter. The Yud letter following the Tsere is a long Tsere. The long Yud letter following the Segol is a long Segol. There's an there's an A, and there's an E. It's like a long stress. And then you have the long O. This is the original long O of Hebrew. It's called the Cholam. The Cholam Maleh. The term we use is the word Maleh. Maleh means complete. Maleh. Let's write it out better for you. The Cholam Maleh, the full Maleh, Cholam. Cholam. Cholam is the name of the vowel, Cholam, and then the word Maleh. Maleh.
Erase the 4 vowels, the 4 letters that can be vowel.
I'm sorry?
The 4 letters that can be a consonant or a vowel.
That's right.
Which ones are those?
These are the 4 letters. I can give you example after example. Well, let me just get through some of this first. Okay, the long Cholam. The long Cholam. Here's the letter Vav, serving as a vowel marker, not as a consonant. So if I were to write out the word shore, shin vav resh, how would I know that the second letter here is a vowel and not a consonant? Because I'm familiar with the word. But if I were to vocalize it, then you can easily tell it's not going to be a vowel, a consonant, it's going to be a vowel. But then again, be careful. The shin letter has a dot on the right, the sin letter has a dot over here. If I put a dot over here, you might think it's the sign of the sin. And Israelis are not stupid. They don't bother to make a sign of the shin or the sin. And the argument is that 9 out of 10 times when you see this letter, it's probably a shin letter, not a sin. But that word shore, you can almost see I have a vowel here. Looks like the long cholam. So it's constant vowel consonant. Shore is an ox. Shore. And then the same letter vowel with the dot midpoint to it, not above it, is the long oo of Hebrew. This is the long oo sound. The long oo sound. As in this word. I write out the word. How can you tell that the vav there is going to be the sound of the O or the sound of the U? I have to vocalize it. I put a dot here. I then have the stolen patach here. I have the final word as luach. I pronounce the sound of the ah before the consonant. You mean to say, Professor, there are syllables where the vowel comes before the consonant? No, there are not. This is an artificial vowel. Luach. And you have to use an imagination. If I say the word lu, and I want to go to the head letter, luach, luach. The word luach did not originally have an ah sound underneath the head. Back in the days of Moses, luach. Sound like Persian Jews. Luach. Luach. Eventually became luach. That ah was nothing but an official way of going from the front of the mouth, lu, to the throat with the iron, with the head here, luach, luach, luach. The stolen patach phenomenon. That word luach, by the way, is a good word to know. It has multiple meanings. It means calendar. As the calendar I have here in Hebrew is a luach, 5786 on it. Luach is also the word for tablet, Tablet. And after the name was Jeff Garber, so many hours together, you need your tablet called an aspirin to have your head put back together. Or Moses carried 2 luchot. The plural of that word luach is the word luchot. Came down with 2 tablets of the law. Yasser Dibrot, the 10 Commandments, of which Charlie Kirk essentially said, we don't observe the Sabbath. And he started a whole movement all of a sudden. I find this to be incredible. His observance of the Sabbath began a few years ago. He observes a totally Orthodox Jewish Sabbath. No phones, no radio, no television. I can't believe it. He's not accountable for that. It's a Jewish thing. Oh, no, it is. God said, stop. No work. And we Christians take that Bible very seriously. So what happens on Sunday? Are you aware of the fact that Christians don't have a greeting on Sunday? Jeff Garber is the only. Christians do not have a greeting on Sunday. Shabbat Shalom, everybody says. I'm the only one who knows how to greet a Christian on Sunday. Have a happy Lord's Day. You know who says that? The damn Germans. It's from the Germans. I picked up Happy Lord's Day. Christians don't have a greeting on Sunday. When they say Sabbath, they mean Saturday. And the Lord Jesus, when he kept the Sabbath, it definitely was not on Sunday. So Charlie Kirk is telling me, don't make me a Jew. I ain't making you anything. I'm just saying that his new book is going to deal with this thing, and quite a few Christians are into Shabbos now. Shabbos is Ashkenazi. Anyway, the word luach, calendar, tablet, tablets, and that vav there is a new sound. Okay, Professor Abe Garber has now introduced another system. Edna only knows from long and short. I want you to know medial. This is the system from UCLA back in the day. That's where I picked it up. You have the medial kamats. Notice my language. Medial, and then I use the word kamats. The medial kamats in appearance looks like the long kamats, but you're not going to confuse that because the long kamats, for our purposes, is on the shelf. It's no longer used. You're not going to find words unless they make up new words when they use the long kamats. So one example of the long kamats is Shavuot versus Shivuot. Shavuot is the holiday, and Shivuot is weeks. This is the sound of Ah. The sound of the Tsere, that's called the Tsere, is an A sound, not an S sound. The horizontal two dots are an A sound. Hebrew does not have a medial E sound, so I put a dash. Hebrew has a medial O sound, and look at what it looks like. It's a dot to the left of the letter. It's without the Vav. This is called the Cholam Chaser. The Cholam Malay, the name of that vowel, once we get it down, is the word Cholam. Malay means complete. Chaser means missing. So one of these vowels, well, all the vowels, you should know the Hebrew name. The Kamatz, you know what it looks like. This is the Cholam Chaser, the missing Vav. And this is the Cholam Malay, the Vav is present. I use the Vav because it's common. I can also use the Hey or the Aleph, but it's not that current. It's not that common. And there's a reason why we need to know the vowels according to the three systems here. I'll go into that soon. Finally, you have the short vowels. You have the short Ah, meaning it's written this way without the bar, without the handle. This is the patach. Look at your chart there. Patach is the name of this vowel. This is the kamatz. The patach and the kamatz have the same sound. One is medial sounded and one is very short. The long kamatz is no longer. The segol, without the yud following it, is the short segol, the S sound. The chirik, without the yud following it, is the short E sound. Then you have a kamatz again. This kamatz in appearance looks just like the medial kamatz, and they both look like the long kamatz. So in appearance, they all look the same. How can you tell the difference? Depends on the syllable, which is something we'll be working on. This is the sound of O. In the column with the letter O, this is the sound of O. This is the sound of O. This is the sound of O. But the short kamatz is not an O sound, it's an O sound, like in jaw, like in raw, or. Then you have a vowel called the kubutz. The kubutz vowel are three dots on a slant. Three dots on a slant. It's the sound of oo. The short oo and the long oo has the vav. So what you need to do is get familiar with the names. The patach, the segol, the chirik haser, the chirik without the yud, the kamatz katan. The word katan means small or short. Katan. Try to get a few. Kamatz katan. And then the vowel known as the kubutz. The kubutz vowel. 3 dots on a slant. And where does Kubitz get its name? The Kubitz gets its name because the 3 letters that make up the Kubitz means a get-together. It's a Kuf letter, a Bet letter, and a Tzadi letter. I write the Tzadi as a regular letter if I'm not writing a word. I'm just giving you the root. Any word that has a Kuf, a Bet, a Tzadi, as the root of the word means a gathering. And there's one word you all know. It has those 3 letters. Could anybody give me the word with a kuf, a bet, and tzadi, which means a get-together, a collection? Again?
Seder.
Sadie?
Seder.
No, I mean with these 3 letters in it. You go to Israel, you have a nice hotel, 5 apartment, have an apartment. If you don't have anything, you wind up in a kibbutz. The word kibbutz, a kuf, a bet, a shuruk, and a final tzadi. A kuf letter, a bet letter, and tzadi. A collective form, a kibbutz. Amazing. The kibbutz gets its name because it has a collection of 3 letters, I guess, or 3 little dots. And to add to all this, you need to know a little history here. 1948, established State of Israel. First Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion. The first ambassador from Israel to a place called Russia. They became the first and only woman Prime Minister in all of the Middle East. As I speak now, she still has that honor. She was a Hebrew teacher in Milwaukee. Her name was Morrison. You know her as Golda Meir. She went to Russia. That's where they sent her. And right away, the Russians, with their community, their commune, and the Israelis with their kibbutz, hit it off. You understand what a kibbutz is? Kibbutz is a collective Marxist form. It's now going capitalist, somewhat. Big time. And a kibbutz is a great place to live. Hillel is a great place for you. All the food is there. I mean, you have to volunteer to do some work a little bit. But everybody knows everybody. Everybody takes care of everybody. It's a collective farm. Bernie Sanders, a great critic, great Jewish critic of Israel. He is a Fabrenta. Fabrenta, Lewis, is Yiddish, burnt out kibbutznik. He was. He was a member of a kibbutz. Kibbutz for him is a communist ideal. It is. The kibbutzim of Israel at one time were better than the communist kibbutz, cohorts. They really were. Today everything changes. Anyway, kibbutz. But I find it interesting, the kibbutz. That's the name of that vowel, because it has 3 dots. Okay, several things before I dismiss you. To begin with, long vowels are found in open syllables. Write down. A syllable that's open, a syllable that ends with a vowel, is normally with a long vowel. Syllables that are closed are short vowel syllables or medial vowels. So when you see a syllable that's open, you say it's a long vowel, except with the following exception. Long vowels are found in open syllables. When they are found in a closed syllable, they have to be accented. That word shalom is a very good example of what I'm trying to say. You see that word shalom? I spell it with the last syllable. Long vowel is closed. A long vowel in a closed syllable is not regular. It has to be accented. The long cholam is closed by the final mem, has to be accented. But what about the kamatz? The kamatz as a medial vowel can either be open or closed syllable. Medial vowels are either in an open syllable or closed. Furthermore, a medial vowel must always be accented. Add the following statement. Medial vowels are open or closed syllables, not more than one place removed from the accent. A medial vowel must be accented, and a medial vowel is either open or closed syllables. Let's give you two examples. The word sefer. Sefer, the Hebrew word for book. Sefer, the Hebrew word for document, as in Sefer Torah. See how I write the word sefer? See what I'm doing? I got CV, I got CVC. My samach has a tsere under it. A tsere is a medial vowel. A medial vowel is open or closed. This syllable is open, the next syllable is closed, CVC, and a medial vowel should be accented. I pronounce the word sefer, not sefer, sefer. Medial vowels attract the accent. What about this word? For morning. CV is the first syllable. CVC is the second syllable. The accent's on that first syllable. Boker, not boker, boker tov. Please note that medial vowels are open or closed syllables, but a medial vowel, when it occurs, is always accented. In fact, the examples given seems to show the medial vowel is an open syllable. Long vowels definitely should be open syllables. If a long vowel is in a closed syllable, like in the word shalom, it should be accented. The short vowels are always in a closed syllable. Short vowels, closed syllable. If a short vowel is in an open syllable, it has to be accented. If a short vowel is in an open syllable, it is accented. A short vowel normally should be in a closed syllable. Long vowel should be in an open syllable. If a long vowel is in a closed syllable, it should be accented. A medial vowel is between the two, open or closed, but a medial vowel is always accented. And finally, before I dismiss you, a short vowel, open syllable. There's a synagogue which has a mikveh called Shaarei Tzedek, located on Chandler Boulevard. The word sha'ar for gate, sha'ar, a word significant in burials, knocking at the sha'ar, the gate of Peter. See where I put the accent? Sha'ar, not sha'ar, open syllable, CV, second syllable CVC. Constant vowel. That race cannot be by itself, so it's attached to vowel before. All right, people, there's so much more. Then there are the half vowels called the shva. I go into that on Thursday. You got a lot today. Could you take my advice? Try to find an hour or two, just go over some of the stuff. And on Thursday, we'll go over it again a little bit and repeat and repeat. There was a student, just wait a minute, that came during the break. He hugged me and he said, "Are you feeling okay?" etc. I invited him to class. Are you listening? He is a Mexican Muslim, at least was a Muslim. He's just adores what I do in Hebrew and Jewish studies. So for those of you who characterize all Muslims to be anti-this, get rid of it. There are a lot of Muslims who are pro-Israel. He's one. Have a good day, people. See everybody on Thursday. Okay.
So, like when I hit to get to your
Oh, yeah.
page, do you have to accept it? Because it says I sent the request. But
Yeah.